Someone said to me once when I was 18, she said, Kate, you're such an overthinker. And I had no awareness around that. I didn't know I had a habit of overthinking. And it was only probably about 30 years later when my daughter started to struggle, and she kind of started, it was almost like she became a mirror for me to see what I was doing. I thought I was trying to fix her, but actually I got to see what I was doing with my own mind, my own frightened mind. And it's like in the other video when I said Bjorn Natiko said, I realized my superpower was that I didn't need to believe every thought. I didn't need to pay attention to every thought that came my way. But I never knew that. And it's a very precarious way to live. When you are bringing every thought alive, you have a habit of overthinking like I did. It means it's almost like, I've heard someone say it's like you're a passenger in the back of the plane. And life happens and you feel the turbulence. And, you just try and control it with your thinking. You're trying to think your way to feeling better. You're trying to think your way out of the turbulence. And ultimately you don't feel okay. But you try really hard to kind of feel more stable. But it kind of depends on life, because it looks like it's happening to you. And so you're kind of a bit of a victim at the back of the plane. And I never knew this until my daughter started to struggle. And for you, it might be yourself, it might be someone, a partner, it might be a parent. It's like anyone who, when someone starts to really struggle, there's often so much learning in it. Because often we kind of climb into our own terrified thinking around it. And we lose sight of everything. We lose sight of clarity. We just feel so kind of like thrown around the back of the plane. And until we realize, until we recognize this. And for some people, it can happen quite spontaneously, some people gradually, doesn't matter. It's a feeling, it's a curiosity, maybe life isn't about being at the back of the plane. Maybe there's something to see here, maybe there's something for me here. And you start to look at your own experience. And, I used to, I had no awareness around this, but when my daughter was struggling, I used to wake up in the morning and I would fire up my mind. And all these anxious thoughts would come through. I would start to play out my day in my head. I would be in the future. I would be like, is my daughter going to get up? What's the day going to look like? Is it going to be okay? Is she okay? And then she was doing the same thing with her own mind. She would wake up in the morning and she would ask herself this question. She would ask, do I feel okay? It's quite a precarious question. It's quite because often we don't feel great in the morning. So that question, do I feel okay? And she would give it a meaning. If I don't feel okay, that means today won't be okay. That means today I won't cope, or today I might get upset, or today something's going to go wrong, or today she'd get so caught up in it she would not be able to move. If you think of our mind, it's there to protect us. If you've told your mind, I'm not okay if I don't feel a certain way, then your mind find evidence why you don't feel great. So you're obviously not okay. So maybe stay at home. But I had no awareness around any of this. And so, like I told you, we tried everything in the known. We tried the counseling, we tried the CBT. And I remember when the CBT therapist, she was well-intentioned and I'm sure it can be helpful for people. But for us, the anxiety levels would rocket when you're trying to mark your anxiety from 1 to 10. And she rang me and she said, your daughter's not engaging. She said, there's nothing I can help with here. And I was like, oh. I remember thinking, is that it? Is that the end of the toolbox? And then I heard this song this Stormzy song, and he was saying, I'm searching every corner of my mind for the answers that I can't find. And I remember hearing that in the car. And I remember thinking, that's because you're looking in the wrong place. I don't know, it was really funny. It's like you're looking in the wrong place. And that was when I got curious. It's like maybe the answers aren't here. Maybe the answers aren't in the known. Like in everything that we're trying to fix and trying to change, and I got curious. And it wasn't like, I just like my mind. It's like I felt my mind fell open to what if life doesn't need to be like this? What if life doesn't need to be this struggle? Yeah, and that's when my daughter said, you changed. It's like she knew we were barking up the wrong tree. I feel grateful that she wasn't engaging. I think I always say that in my videos. I probably repeat myself all the time, but it doesn't matter, because if your awareness is shifting and shifting, you're going to hear everything I say differently every time you listen. So I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, back in a minute.